Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is Keegan Jensen back with a post-tournament show, this time for From the Hawkeye to Storm. Big day. A lot of action, a lot to talk about and break down. Um, I mean, we can kind of start from the top, kind of get some initial thoughts as some more people get in here. No Big Ten champs. Good news is, unless Caliendo gets tech balled or pinned, he should get the 2 seed at NCAA's. Yeah, and barring what many would call a miracle, it's going to take a lot to have a Big Ten champ for Iowa. But, that sounds really negative in theory, but I honestly think it was a pretty good day all around. Got the guys confirmed into nationals that I thought we would. Other guys got to work hard tomorrow. Nobody's out of it yet. And then Caliendo getting to the finals, it's a big deal. I thought there was a chance we might not have a finalist. So that's nice to see. Also, we have to talk about how they call stalling in Iowa. It's getting ridiculous. Yeah, there will be plenty of discussion about that. We got tons to talk about, and just many matches throughout the day where stalling was a hot topic, and not even so much stalling as stall calls not being awarded to opponents that we were wrestling, as far as people that were not taking shots, grounding themselves before going out of bounds. I mean, I think there's many times where we could have got stall calls against people and we didn't get them. Block running out of gas surprised me. He had that one. Yeah, it kind of happened the first time he wrestled Shane Van Ness too. He took him down right away, gassed out. Obviously, Shane Van Ness went on to win that match. Same thing that happened here. We lost purely on stall calls, and I was kind of worried about that happening. We were getting hit for stalling early. I was like, this is going to be pretty rough. And it's something, Block is not a guy that runs out of gas. And if you watch the semifinals, Shane Van Ness gassed out his opponent that he was wrestling there as well. He was losing early, ended up coming back and winning. It seems just Shane Van Ness has a really good gas tank. I know he has super heavy hands and he just keeps the pace going the whole time, but it's crazy. I mean, Block literally had that one. He barely missed out on a takedown at the start of the third period as well. So just crazy that he wasn't able to hold on to that. I was really hoping he would. Just ran out of time there at the end and ended up, he was too gassed out. I mean, he got pushed to the edge. If he would have shot, he probably would have been taken down. Chose not to shoot, backed out, got hit for a stall call, 2 points, lost 5-4. PSU gets taken down, stalling on the opponent. Yeah, I saw all over Twitter, people were acting crazy about this. Just they were showing the singlet poll and Welsh and Ferrari's match, talking about stall calls throughout the day, just saying it's insane. I mean, you can't deny that the fact that Penn State's home crowd probably has some type of pull on the refs. I mean, they're so loud and they're cheering about everything. But yeah. Good evening to you. I did see the article in the Des Moines Register. We're actually going to get to talk about that in a little bit. I was going to go over some things first before we get to it. I got some storylines I definitely want to cover. Just talking about these things. Actually, see, we got a little glare there, so I'm going to see if I can fix this really quick. I'm noticing that in the left corner there. But no, we'll definitely talk about that article. I also want to talk about Jordan Williams. I'm not sure, how many people are up to speed on everything that happened there. But Jordan Williams got benched right before Big Tens. And this was a hot discussion throughout the week. There we go. The lighting's fixed. But yeah, there's plenty to talk about. But I wanted to start out just kind of going through 125 through heavyweight, what I thought of each person. Then we'll get into the article. Then we'll get into some of the Jordan Williams stuff. But yeah, this is something I was going to get to as well. Penn State wrestlers have insane gas tanks, but it is not stalling because you rifle off head fakes and arm shots when you're losing. Yeah, exactly. That's what bothers me so bad. It's what are they doing to earn the stall calls? I get that they're moving forward, that they have great gas tanks. It's obvious that they might be the aggressor in some situations, but they're not actually shooting. And a lot of times they're running guys straight out. That's kind of the state of the sport right now with stalling. A lot of people are complaining about it, rightfully so. But their gas tanks are great. And I think, I was saying this earlier to someone I was talking to, that match with Ryder Block and Shane Van Ness is a perfect example to me that overworking wrestlers in practice is not just going to inherently make them have like a great shape when they're out there in the match. Like I was just known for working guys to the bone in practice, hard conditioning, things like that. Penn State, you see the documentaries where they're playing games at practice to warm up. Sometimes they're doing less conditioning, more focusing on drilling and things like that. And then you see them, they're all in great shape. They're all staying healthy throughout the year. These are things we could learn from, in my opinion. But yeah, so starting with 125 pounds today, I was pretty impressed by Dean Peterson. I think he showed me a lot. Went out there, took care of number 30. I'm gonna go by rankings nationally instead of talking about seeds when I'm referring to opponents, just 'cause I think that's more credible. He beat number 30 Diego Sotelo of Michigan 6-2 in the first round before losing to number 1 Luke Liladol of Penn State 8-3 in the quarterfinals. I didn't think he wrestled too bad against Liladol, to be honest. Thought he was close. A couple scrambles that could have gone either way. A couple reviews in the match that didn't go our way. I know he beat Liladol last year when he was with Rutgers. I think there's a chance. I mean, I don't want to say we're likely to avenge that match, but if we run into him at nationals, I'm not going to be. I don't think he'll shy away from that match, and I do think there's a chance we can compete there. He ended up going back and picking up 2 wins on the backside. He will wrestle in the consolation semifinals tomorrow morning against Nick Bouzakis for the 3rd time this year. He's 0-2 against him right now. Nick Bouzakis got upset in the semifinals by Jure Volk of Minnesota. So we'll see what we can do there. But nonetheless, for those of you that don't know, there's a certain amount of allocated qualifiers at each weight in each conference tournament. So Dean Peterson, at his weight, there is 9 allocated qualifiers. Dean Peterson's automatically top 6 now since he made the semifinals. He's qualified for the national tournament. We will be seeing him there. And same thing with some of our guys. When we're going forward, I'll talk about the guys who have qualified and who haven't. So at 133, we had Drake Ayala. He is also qualified to the national tournament. He'll wrestle number 1, Lucas Bird, who got beat by the Purdue kid. What's his name? Blake Borman. He got beat by Blake Borman, and it was so surprising to me. I don't know how many of you guys watched that match, but he almost lost to him in the duel. He beat him 5-4 and edged it out in the duel, and then lost to him here in the quarterfinals of Big Tens. I was so surprised by that because, I mean, Ayala's teched him. Multiple guys have teched him. He's not ranked. I don't know. Bird just seems to have a problem with him, and I don't know what it is, but Ayala's going to get another match with Bird in the consolation semifinals tomorrow morning, and that's a rematch of the national championship from last year. So a lot of eyes will be on that. Ayala in the round of 16 got a win. He in the quarterfinals, he got revenge on Zan Fugit of Wisconsin by a score of 10-3. Lost him in the duel way earlier this year in a close match, and then he lost to Marcus Blaze close in overtime 4-1 in the semifinals. I thought Ayala wrestled a good match. I mean, there's just not a lot you can do. Blaze stays in such good position, and that attack in overtime was so clean. It's like Ayala couldn't even really have scrambled out of that. There wasn't much he could do there. But I thought nonetheless he had a pretty good day. I thought his offense looked better. He's on the gas tank more. Not like he got gassed out against Blaze or anything. Just kind of got out wrestled there in overtime. At 141, something to mention, Nasir Bailey, and we're going to talk about Nasir Bailey more later when I talk about the Jordan Williams stuff too. But Nasir, he's automatically qualified as well. He's going to wrestle number 6, Joey Oliveira of Rutgers in the consolation semifinals tomorrow morning. He had a good day. I thought he looked great. Yes, he got tech balled by Mendez again in the semifinals, but I thought he wrestled him better this time. Won in the round of 16, beat number 24 Dylan Ragusin 9-1 in the quarterfinals. I thought he looked a lot more like he did his freshman year with Little Rock when he got 4th at the national tournament. I don't know if he can place that high this year, but he's going to be there. He's going to dance. We're going to see what he can do. I think he's looking a lot better, and it's nice to see. I mean, his finger looked fully recovered. Just looked a lot better, and I'm excited to see what he can do. I know he's gone through a lot of hate this year. There's a lot of people that are down on him. Not sure, if he's going to be around next year, but it's nice to see what he can do now. At 149, and obviously we talked on him a little bit earlier, Ryder Block. He's going to wrestle Gavin Brown of Purdue in the 9th place bracket semifinals tomorrow morning, and I'll explain more about that later for those that don't know exactly how that works. But in the round of 16, Block picked up a win in the quarterfinals. He narrowly lost to Shane Van Ness, as we talked about, and then he lost on the backside in the consolation round 2 to Andrew Clark of Rutgers. That sent him to the 9th place bracket. As we talked about earlier, a certain amount of allocations go to each weight. 149, there's 9. So now he gets sent to the 9th place bracket. He's trying to wrestle back for 9th to qualify. If he doesn't qualify, he has a great resume to try and get in that large bid, which I assume he would, but nonetheless, he's still got a little bit of work to do. So he'll wrestle Gavin Brown of Purdue tomorrow morning. He'll be a favored in that match, but we'll see what he can do. He's got to pick up 2 to get that automatic qualifier spot. At 157, here's where we're going to talk about the Jordan Williams situation and the Victor Voinovich situation. So Brands opted to start Victor Voinovich at the Big Ten tournament. I know there's a lot of people that agree with this decision. I know there's a lot of people that don't like the way Jordan Williams wrestled this year. They don't like his attitude. I am not one of those people. Do I disagree with, some of the effort that Jordan Williams had in the beginning of this year? Yeah, I think to some extent. I think, he gave up majors and matches. That could have been a decision. There were some clear issues early on in the year, but I think that Nasir Bailey had those same issues and was given more of a chance to recover through them, where it seems to me, I don't ever want to speculate because you don't know what's going on in practice and things like that and what kind of attitudes guys really have. But it seems to me Brands really had a bone to pick with Jordan Williams, at least ever since the Soldier Salute. There's been a clear, he's favored Victor Voinovich in that spot since the Soldier Salute. And, I have data to back this up. I mean, ended up giving Victor Voinovich the spot, even though Jordan Williams lost in overtime to the returning national champ, Antrell Taylor. He lost 4-1 to PJ Duke. I mean, he's ranked 15th. It's insane to me that we sat this guy. I mean, he's an automatic qualifier. He's a guy who was a match away from placing last year at the national tournament. We might have took a place winner out of our lineup because Brands has something personal against him. Looking at, it's like, this is what I mean. So Brands said, and I don't remember exactly what the quote was, but when he was asked about this, he said, well, it's close. Voinovich, Williams, talent-wise, they're both really close. But it came down to an effort thing there. This was extremely disappointing to me. And I'm not going to sit here and even, I think people that have been watching my show all year know that I'm a guy that likes to stay neutral in a lot of situations. And this is not a situation I'm going to stay neutral. And I think Brands is full of crap in that situation. To say that they're close in talent, is asinine to me. It's not fair. To say that there's effort problems, you can say whatever you want. You can say you benched him because of effort, but don't say you benched him because they're close, because they're not close. You took a better guy out of our lineup. And so what I wanted to bring up here, so this is Williams' schedule since the Soldier Salute. These are the times that Brands decided Williams was going to wrestle in duels since the Soldier Salute. He wrestled them against number 25, Luke Meckler of Wisconsin. Williams actually beat Luke Meckler, who beat Victor Voinovich today. So already has a common opponent over who he was benched for. Then he wrestled number 4, PJ Duke. Then he wrestled number 3, Antrell Taylor. Number 17, Charlie Millard of Minnesota. Number 13, Cam Karcherbone of Michigan. And number 5, Landon Robidoux. Those are all of the matches that Brands made Williams go out. Now let's listen to the matches that he decided to have Voinovich wrestle. Unranked Maddox Shaw of Ohio State, Cannon's backup. Darius Marines of Michigan State, unranked. And Stoney Buell of Purdue, unranked. He also wrestled Voinovich in the Pittsburgh, Chattanooga, and Utah Valley duels against unranked opponents. So how is Williams supposed to build any momentum or get anything going when he's forced to go out and wrestle anytime that we have a top 20 ranked opponent, and then Voinovich gets every single guy that's unranked? I mean, you want to talk about favoritism in any way, that's obvious right there. I'm pointing at the data in front of you. He gave Williams a ranked guy every single time they had one and gave Voinovich the unranked guy every single time they had one. Williams and Voinovich still had similar records after that. And then he wants to say, well, they're close in talent. They're really close in the room. But effort-wise, I chose to go Voinovich. No, you chose to go Voinovich because for whatever reason, you don't like Jordan Williams. And that's the clear and obvious statement. You know Jordan Williams is better, but you chose Voinovich. So, yeah, I just got a bone to pick there. I think that I fully agree with this. Williams got screwed, took all the L's against good wrestlers. Well, Victor Voinovich barely beat average wrestlers. So, yeah, I didn't even see that comment before I started going in about this because it's ridiculous. I mean, it seems all year that he did kind of get screwed, and I think he deserved to be out there the Big Tens, and we brought him here. We wanted him. We took him. We had him in our lineup all year, made him wrestle all the good guys, and then we burned a year of his eligibility, made him waste a year of his eligibility when I thought he was getting better. He had just wrestled Landon Robidoux in his last match of the year, and I thought he wrestled him a lot better. He's been looking great. Like I said, took Antrell Taylor to overtime, the returning national champ. That is the ceiling of a guy like Jordan Williams. That is what he can be. We took that opportunity away from him. Jordan Williams and Nasir Bailey are both known for peaking in the postseason. We don't get to see that happen as Iowa fans. Instead, we have Victor Voinovich, who's now wrestling in a 9th place bracket, trying to sneak in. I believe there's 8 at 157. So he needs to get 9th and win the wrestle back for 8th place to qualify. And if he does not, he is not at all a favorite to get an at-large bid. So we might have swapped out a potential place winner, a guy that could compete all the way at the top with the best of the best, for someone who might not even go to nationals. And that is no rip against Victor Voinovich. I have nothing personal with Victor Voinovich. Clearly, looking at this objectively and analytically, it's bad for the lineup. And, in that article, he also just talked about how Brands said, this has been the worst year of my career. He said, we got to do better in the transfer portal. We got to look at guys for their personality and their lifestyle more than what they just do on the mat. Why would, we talked last time I was on here about guys not committing here. Like in homegrown Iowa talent not coming here. Bo Bassett not coming here. Melvin Miller not coming here. Keegan Bassett not coming here. All guys that we could have gotten. Masoma and Dean leaving, transferring, going somewhere else after only being here for a short time. Now you see this happen with Jordan Williams, who inevitably seems like he's probably going to hit the portal after this year. Then you wonder why guys don't want to come here. when they see stuff like that, that is why they don't want to come wrestle for Iowa. People want to wrestle for Iowa because we have been great in the past. We have great tradition. We have great fans. We have a great atmosphere, and you can be great at Iowa. But when they see things like this is what pulls them away, and this is what makes them realize maybe they could be better somewhere else. That's the stuff we got to get figured out, and that's why I'm extremely disappointed in what I witnessed. But with that being said, we'll move on to 165, where I want to talk about Michael Caliendo. What I wanted to say about Michael Caliendo right away, he is the Big Groves big play of the day. Just his offense all day never gets boring watching him. We talked about it all year. I wish every wrestler could wrestle like him. I always will say the quote, wish I could have 10 Michael Caliendos in every weight class, because he is just awesome. Went out there and he wrestled Andrew Barbosa, who had just upset Joey Blaze, beat the crap out of him, looked great. No hesitation there. Was just on the offense the whole time. So was sad. I kind of wanted to see the Joey Blaze rematch happen, but I think this did solidify the 2 seed for Michael Caliendo at Nationals. This is good for him all in all, and I'm happy about it. And I just am curious now where Joey Blaze is going to be seated. Also talking about, Lucas Bird earlier, who got upset. Where is he going to be seated? What's going to happen with these things? There's a lot that's going to be determined tomorrow still, but a lot to be answered. And that's why the Big Tens is so fun. Ranking doesn't mean anything. What happened earlier in the year doesn't mean anything when you get to this tournament. Anybody can do anything. Yeah. Brands has done this before. Victor Voinovich is a program guy, does it a lot at 25. Yeah. Also subs in Joey Cruz a lot at 125, and feel like, Dean Peterson had some injury stuff, I think, which is why he was out a lot, but it's just, I don't know. When you favor guys, it doesn't go well historically, and that's no secret. You give it to the best guy, and that's what it should be, unless there's major issues, which in this case, I don't speculate that there were. But also, on top of that, wanted to say, obviously, also the wrestler of the day is going to go to Michael Caliendo from the Hawkeye the Storm wrestler of the day. It's going to be him. He was just, without a doubt, the best that we saw today. And, I think a lot of people could have predicted going in. Just awesome watching him compete. And like we talked about earlier, he's going to have number 1 ranked Mitchell Messenbrink of Penn State tomorrow, who he has never beat and many times has not been close with, and who is probably the number 1 pound for pound wrestler in the nation. So we're going to see what he can do there. Obviously, whatever he can do is just whatever he can do. And we got to hope that he can try to make that match as close as he can and maybe meet him in the NCAA finals like he did last year as well. Going into 174, Patrick Kennedy. This was tough. This was hard to watch, his match with Christopher Mento in the semifinals. I know, I didn't get to come on here and talk a lot about the seeding mishaps and everything that happened with the new system with the Big Tens, but obviously there was a ton of drama that happened when the pre-seeds of the Big Tens came out, and Minto was actually originally the 1 seed, and Kennedy would have had Haynes in the semis. That ended up changing, and he ended up getting Minto in the semis instead, whom he had beat earlier in tiebreakers 2-1. He ended up losing to him 5-1 tonight, and it was not that close in particular. Tough one, but Minto's a guy who's been getting a lot better all year. Just another story of guys, out achieving us, getting better, and, improving more as the year has gone on. So tough pill to swallow, but he's going to have number 10, Bo Montanona, in the consolation semifinals tomorrow morning, whom he lost to in sudden victory a few weeks back. So that's going to be a big one. He's going to turn around and get right back to it. But he was able to pick up, good wins in the round of 16, Tech followed Seth Digby of Maryland, and beat number 20, Lenny Pinto of Rutgers 9-1 in the quarters. And then hopping into 184, obviously there was a ton of talk about Angelo Ferrari and his return from his ankle injury. He, I thought he looked good. Again, still, many concerns with the lack of offense, even against inferior opponents, just not being able to really put matches away because he can't get to his shots as easy as he would have liked. I thought against Rocco Welsh, though, he did have multiple opportunities to finish, to take that match. He ended up not doing it, lost on a couple seconds of riding time in tiebreakers 3-2. But I don't think that's not a match that we can't avenge when we get to the national tournament. I don't know what will be seeded, considering that Ferrari did beat Aiden Sinclair earlier in the year, but Max McNeely outplaced us last year at nationals. He's going to outplace us at Big Tens, and he lost to Sinclair. So kind of like a triangle there. Not sure exactly what's going to happen. We could end up being on the same side of the bracket as Welsh. We could end up being on the other side. There's a lot to talk about and unpack, especially when seeding comes out. But nice to see that Ferrari was able to bounce back and beat number 30 James Riley of Purdue in the consolation round 2. He then medical forfeited to number 17 Chris Moore of Illinois, and I'm assuming he's going to medical forfeit for 7th and 8th tomorrow morning as well. And he has qualified for the national tournament. I forgot to say that for the last few guys as well. Caliendo and Kennedy are both obviously also officially qualifying to the national tournament. And then at 197, Gabe Arnold. With all things considered, I thought Gabe Arnold did the best that he could. Obviously he's bumping up 1, if not 2 weight classes, considering he can make 174. And I thought he gave everybody good matches that he wrestled. In the round of 16, he lost to Branson John of Maryland by a score of 4-1. And then he picked up a win on the backside against Dylan Cannell of Illinois, then lost to Remy Cotton of Rutgers in overtime in the consolation round 3, entered the 9th place bracket, where he will just need to get top 2 in that bracket to qualify, since 10 qualify at 197. And he picked up a win in overtime against Dylan Cannell again. He will wrestle number 33 Hayden Walter of Michigan in the 9th place bracket semifinals tomorrow morning. So that's going to be a really big one right out the gate. A lot of people don't want to watch those consolation matches, but they're a big deal. I mean, Arnold's fighting for his season, because I don't think he has the criteria to be an at-large at 197. So he needs to pick up a win tomorrow morning in a match he's going to be favored in, and needs to get into the national tournament. And, we can talk about how he'll do at the national tournament later, but right now we need to get him there. That's a big one for sure. And then at 285, Ben Keeter has officially qualified. I thought he wrestled all right. He's going to wrestle number 5 Cole Marisola, who we lost to earlier, of Penn State in the consolation semifinals tomorrow morning. He picked up a win over number 10 Coy Hopke of Minnesota in the first round before losing to Ferrari for the second time. Picked up a win in consolation round 2 and 3 against both ranked opponents. Beat Luke Leffman against Illinois, who I consider to be pretty tough. So made his way to the consolation semifinals. I think he's looking a little better. Obviously, offense is still a big concern, but all in all, I thought there was improvement there. And I thought everybody wrestled, I thought everybody slightly improved off of how they've done this season in this tournament, or at least in the last few weeks. Besides, maybe, you can point at Kennedy and, point at a couple guys that you think could have maybe done better. But I thought everybody wrestled pretty well considering, and I'm hoping that we can get 9 or 10 guys in. And we'll see how we can do. Consolation semifinal round is going to be a huge, huge round for us tomorrow morning. Caliendo goes, and the Alex Marinelli box for me. Some of my favorite wrestlers to watch, but for different reasons didn't reach the heights I thought they would. Yeah, honestly, Marinelli hurts more because he was the 1 seed a couple times and really seemed like he should have won it. And then obviously just got beat by some really good wrestlers early in the tournament. I mean, he had to wrestle like Mekhi Lewis in the quarterfinals. I mean, he had some bad draws, but at the same time, he definitely could have got it done, had the talent to get it done. Where Caliendo also has the talent to get it done, but he's running into, a perennial national champ who's one of the best pound for pound wrestlers in the nation. It's tough. It's like, he deserves to maybe be a 1 or 2 timer, but it's not going to happen. But he is just so fun to watch. If there's one thing you can hammer the brands for over the years, is they produce great dual wrestlers / teams, so they often don't do well in the postseason during tournaments. Yeah, I agree. And I'm hoping that narrative switches this year. And we talked about that a lot this year too, about how, maybe the narrative can switch a little bit. We haven't done as well in duels this year. Maybe we'll do better in the postseason tournaments. I thought this day was an all right showing. He got in, but couldn't finish. Oh, this is in reference to the Ferrari match. Yeah. Multiple times, 2 times there, got in on Welsh. That was where one of the infamous singlet grabs happened that a lot of people are saying cost him the match. I don't know necessarily if it cost him the match, but if you haven't seen, there's pictures just going around on Twitter of Welsh had an obvious singlet pull on Ferrari when he was close to getting that second takedown. I don't think it stopped him from getting the takedown, but there was a pretty bad singlet pull there. But it would have been nice to see him finish. I mean, Welsh just works the edge of the mat so well, and he's also so good at just not getting hit for stalling because he drops to his knees every time he's on the edge of the mat. And we'll talk more about that later, but Arnold should get respect for what he's done for the team. I haven't seen a size mismatch like that since high school. Yeah, I agree. It's like a high school situation. Like everybody remembers being in high school, and it's like you got a guy that's, trying to drink a gallon of water to get up to weight before a tournament so that he can wrestle for the team. It's like, this is Arnold. He's 174, and just how much talent he has to be able to go out there and compete with ranked wrestlers 2 weight classes above what he really could be is just, it's unreal to me. And I'm hoping he can make the national tournament. I think that's a big deal. And just happy he gets to use this year of eligibility, because it seemed like for a while there he wasn't going to. Caliendo epitomizes what we mean when we say Iowa style. Doesn't sit on his lead and has a variety of attacks. Yeah, he's exactly what Iowa style used to be consistently. We used to always see this And it used to be just very exciting match in and match out. I wish everybody could be like that. Um, we will get to this. I want to talk about this for a while, but first I'm going to have Alex hop in here and join the call. Sorry, I had to leave you waiting there for a second.
No, I jumped on pretty late, so did you? So I imagine you watched the duel or watched the tournament on TV, or did you listen to it?
No, I watched all of it. I watched it on Big Ten and Big Ten Plus.
So I listened to Mark Ironside and Steve Gase's during the first round, but I never got a notification of them broadcasting for the consolation in the quarterfinals. So I was just kind of relying on Twitter at that point, or X, whatever. I don't really have a whole lot of thoughts. I think you kind of said, I thought Iowa performed about as well as they could. I think there's a couple matches where I wish we would have had back. Ryder Block is one of them. You know, he gets hit for, what is it, 5 stalling, calls. You get the one that doesn't cost anything, and you get 2 1-pointers, and then one that's 2 points, and that's how you lose against a very good wrestler. And it's so disappointing where you see him just kind of going after this guy, and then the third period he is literally running on fumes at this point, just sucking air. Angelo, I mean, I was kind of curious of how he would come back after that. You said ankle. I thought it was a knee. Maybe it was an ankle.
Yeah, I think I heard ankle, but I mean, it could be knee. But what I heard was
body injury.
Yeah, exactly. It's similar.
So, and it's one of those where, I think he wrestled well, but it's one of those things, again, it's frustrating to watch him wrestle, or, I mean, in my case, listen to him wrestle because of his, and Gabe Arnold is very much the same way, where he's very slow to get to his offense. Now, I understand Gabe Arnold, you could probably have an excuse for, like, he's wrestling two weight classes above him, maybe where he should really be at. And so he's facing kids, 20, 10 to 20 pounds heavier than what he really is, and so obviously you gave him a ton of credit for that. I thought Ben Keeter, from what I was hearing, looked as good as body as he has all year. I think that extra week off from the Oklahoma State duel, I guess he didn't even wrestle Oklahoma State. So, so I don't know how much of that post-surgery, that surgery is really affecting him. I know they were holding him back start of the year because of that. So, Ayala, I was hopeful for Ayala because I thought he was on the other side of the bracket. I thought he was on the lower half because that Bird from Illinois got beat by the Purdue guy, and I thought, oh, Ayala has a chance to make the finals. He was on the top side of the bracket, and I thought he had a decent match, or at least from what I could see based on reading from the post or the people I follow wrestling and posts about it. I thought he kind of held his own against Penn State, but I think he's coming along too. Hopefully he can kind of put it all together for nationals. Who's the other one? Caliendo, I think, got a lucky break that Joey Blaze got beat. So I think as long as Caliendo doesn't step on, get in his own way, I think it's going to be him and Messerbrink again for 1 and 2. So, I mean, kind of all in all, wasn't too of a surprising meet or a surprising day for Iowa. Again, a couple things that I wish they would have done a little better. But I think is Voinovich still alive, or is that I know he lost again?
Yeah, so he's in the 9th place bracket right now. I mean, he's alive, but so he's got to wrestle back for 9th, and then he's got to win the wrestle back to get 8th place, I believe is how that works. And if he can get 8th place, he's in. And that's assuming that the person that gets 8th place hasn't already beat Voinovich earlier in the tournament, which I'm not sure exactly how that looks right now. But basically, the odds are heavily stacked up against him. I would say he's not favored to make it.
So why did Jordan Williams not? Why did they not seed him, or why did Iowa not send him?
Yeah. So what Brand said, and I touched on it earlier. He said that, which I can wholeheartedly disagree with. He said that he believes that Voinovich and Jordan Williams are close, talent-wise, but that he thinks it came down to effort, where he favored the effort of Voinovich more than he favors the effort of Williams, which is why he opted to send Voinovich instead. So I said it earlier, I think he kind of had a personal vendetta against Williams for whatever reason. Maybe it was some of his effort earlier in the year, how he conducted himself, but it's clear that he wanted to give Voinovich the spot for whatever reason it is. But there's no Williams isn't hurt. He was ranked 15th. It's just a healthy scratch from the Big Ten tournament we sent our backup. And that's,
Now, isn't
whatever.
Voinovich a senior? But from what I heard, he didn't participate in senior activities during Iowa Senior Day, if memory serves correct.
Yeah, I believe he's a senior. Actually, I can look that up really fast. I
So I
believe.
don't know. I don't know. Maybe that says like he wants to try to come back for another year. I don't know how that would work. What about Jordan Williams? Was this his last year? Or
He's a
is he
junior eligibility wise.
okay?
And Voinovich is a senior, by the way. I just did look that up.
Okay.
But I would say that in my, what I would guess hypothetically is that Williams will be entering the transfer portal. I would say that pretty confidently. I'm not one to typically speculate on those things. Who knows exactly what happened? Maybe he will stick around. But I would say, if you get sat right before the conference tournament because the head coach
Without an injury.
back over you, and then Jordan Williams has already wrestled for Oklahoma State and Little Rock in the past and transferred 2 different times. With his track record, it does not seem likely that we're going to be getting him for another year unless some things drastically change.
And listening to the broadcast, Mark Ironside was talking specifically. I couldn't remember if it was Bailey or Williams about who, like the teams he's wrestled for, and he goes, "I think it's an issue where you don't have that continuity of wrestling for one program for more than one season because obviously wrestling's by and large a very consistent sport where there's not a whole lot of it's not like football where you have like 5 different types of defensive schemes that you have. Wrestling is very consistent in that sort of nature. But he talked about how Williams, and they talked about the Voinovich Williams situation, but they really didn't go into detail of what the reasons were for setting Williams or not wrestling him. But they talked about him, just bouncing around, and they even kind of mentioned like I wouldn't be surprised if he go somewhere next year. But he said that's just only going to hurt him because if you don't stay in one program, learn from one set of one coach for a while, it's going to hurt you more than it's going to help you.
Yeah,
So
exactly. That's what they said that too about Gabe Arnold when he was dismissed from the team or separated from the team before the season, and it was rumored that he might go wrestle somewhere else. I remember talking to Corey about it for a long time, and we were just like going and starting fresh. The grass always seems greener on the other side, and it never actually is. You never just go somewhere and then it's like, oh wow, this is 1,000 times better than the situation I was just in, and it seems like everybody's chasing that. But it never really happens. The best situations are where people are built and get used to a certain program and the way things are. So it's like, I don't see Jordan Williams going to another program and magically becoming this amazing top 5 wrestler, but I also don't really see a world where he stays considering what just happened.
yeah, unless he goes to a lower division school and
Right.
then maybe he can actually make some noise there. What did Angel Ferrari just medically forfeit? I remember seeing. Okay, so but he's going to make it in regardless to the tournament. Okay.
Yeah, which I think his weight had 8 that go, and he's I'm pretty sure he's going to medical forfeit to 8th, but I think that the guy he beat earlier in the tournament is almost like certainly going to get 9th. So he's like won't have a wrestle back or anything. I think he's pretty much in.
Okay.
We won't have to worry about him.
That's good at least. And there was a couple other things. And I know you mentioned, I think one of the comments mentioned about Beth Getz saying that Brands would be around for the next season and all. And I think a lot of Iowa fans were almost certain that he'd be gone. I thought, and I was in that boat too, of like, he's after the season. I mean, when he lost to Minnesota and a lot of the personnel issues, you talked the Mo situation in Nasir Bailey, he was kind of in and out of the lineup, just didn't seem like he was a good get from the portal. I know he's got one more year left. Be kind of curious to see what happens with him. Jordan Williams, we just touched on that. And then losing to Iowa State after 20 years, losing to Minnesota after 14 years, barely beating Michigan, getting mollywopped by Ohio State and Penn State and Oklahoma State. Just, it was almost writing on the wall. And I think, I don't know if you read the article, I personally haven't, but Ironside and Gase went over it and they were talking about how very candid Brands was, and they were really surprised that when this article came out, they thought maybe it should have been near after the season.
Yeah.
But I think the conclusion that they came with was maybe Brands felt a little bit of pressure. Maybe it's like, okay, I need to be a little more open with the fans. And he was very from hearing it just from Ironside, he said he was very open about how he was very disappointed in how the season has gone.
Oh
And
yeah,
how
that was the first thing he said. He's like, "Ask me anything," and then right away he said, "This has been the worst year of my career." Like he wasn't hiding that at all. Saying similar things to you that you said, losing to Iowa State, things like that. Um, yeah, I mean, I did read the article, and I was a few days ago, so I don't remember all the details. But he basically just referenced things that you just talked about, like the transfer portal, needing to do better there, losing to Iowa State, Ohio State, not being close to Penn State. Same thing that Beth is looking at, the separation in Penn State. And that's what the writer. So for those of you that don't know that are watching the Des Moines Register, came out with an article basically saying that Brands will be back next year, and that they didn't name, I don't think they named the specific sources that they heard from, but they said they heard from sources within the, within the Hawkeyes that Brands will be sticking around, and that Beth is not planning on getting rid of him, but that there will be a deep look into the program and what's going wrong, and things might be changing outside of Brands is basically the situation.
So, and maybe in your opinion, do you think that, okay, Brands would stay, and I think Terry would stay too. Do you think there is some changes in some of the assistants where it's like, okay, maybe Beth will, set Tom down and say, okay, hey, we're going to keep you around for next year, but you need to change things up first. You need to get, maybe say you're going to get rid of a couple assistants and you bring in some new people. I think that's the way to go about it, because, I mean, yes, this year's his worst in his career, but it's almost like you kind of see it coming based on the last, after 2021, after they won the last national title. It's just been kind of on a downward trajectory, and just hasn't seemed to be, there hasn't been any true, like, good bright spots. I mean, we've gotten, Buchanan came in and won a national title for individual title, which is great. Caliendo, I know, was a transfer, and he's been a really solid mainstay. Dean Peterson was a transfer. He's kind of not panned out. We already touched on this here, Bailey and Williams. I know there's a couple other transfers in there that have, been decent wrestlers, but not what I think we have wanted. And I think and you touched on it too with the transfers. It's so hard to find the right guys who are coming in there because, hey, I want to win a national title. I want to help this team win a national title, and not saying, hey, this team's going to pay me the biggest paycheck, so I'm just going to go here.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, exactly. And that's what I noticed that, because that's what Brand said. He said that they need to look more into the lifestyle of wrestlers, and
that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Look at their personality and lifestyle more than just what they do on the mat. And that's what, with Jordan Williams and Nasir Bailey, they're both Little Rock guys that were flashy, very flamboyant, and like loud and out there. And I'm like, this does not, like, when they first transferred, I was like, I like those wrestlers. I think they're good, but they do not represent Iowa style. And that's where I'm like, I don't think it's going to mesh well. I think they could be better other places. And that's where we learned lessons there. And we learned a lesson through Ja'Cory Teamer. Teamer was not Iowa style. He was not fit to wrestle in the Iowa program. He sat most of the year and then ended up going 0-2 at nationals after getting second the year before. Caliendo is an example of a guy that is Iowa style. He came here and he thrived in the program. So we need to look for more guys like that instead of just jumping on guys because they have performed well on the mat in the past. We need to really know who they are.
Yeah. But I'm going to jump off here. I didn't know if I was going to be able to. Saturday night's usually family night, so I just thank my wife for letting me, indulge in some of my my habits and everything like that, I guess. So, But anyways, have a great night. Will you be on Sunday after the?
Yeah, I will be on tomorrow night.
Perfect. All right. Yep. Well, we'll see you then.
All right. Sounds good. Yeah. So went into, I think I saw a couple comments that I did want to reply to. Caliendo would have and will beat Blaze if/when they wrestle again. Speaking of Blaze, watch him transfer to Iowa next season. I totally agree with that. I said the same thing all year. I'm like, I cannot wait for Caliendo to wrestle Lockett again from Oklahoma State. I'm like, he'll beat him when he wrestles him again. And he did. I think the same thing about Blaze. I mean, I think that match was super winnable. And I would say he's the favorite if they wrestle again. I mean, just the fact that, like, watching Blaze lose to that Rutgers kid, it's like there's no way that Caliendo ever could have lost to that guy from Rutgers. And that alone tells me it's like, okay, we're the more consistent guy. I think that we're better all in all. I think Blaze is fantastic. I think if we run into him at nationals, it's going to be a very good match, but I definitely think that we should be favored to pull that off if we get the chance. And then I saw, Williams has been lazy. That's what a lot of people's number one complaint is, and what they say. Like, a lot of people are like, well, he deserved this. He had it coming. Were there times where he looked a little lazy in matches or he had a lack of effort? Yeah, but it's like, I always remember just as a coach, it's so important to build guys up and to make them better men, not to give up on them when it gets rough. And I understand it gets to a point, but to me, it didn't get to that point where it's like, okay, Williams, it's so bad that we need to start someone that's not going to make nationals over the 15th ranked wrestler who was a match away from placing last year and lost to a national champion in overtime. It was not that bad to me. And I think that he had a lot he could have improved on. And, I don't think his situation was significantly worse than Nasir Bailey's situation was. Everybody, Nasir looked really lazy the first time he wrestled Mendez, getting hit for all those stall calls. People were so mad at him. And, he's gotten a chance to redeem himself. He looks great right now. He looks like he's peaking in the postseason. I wanted the same thing for Williams. Sucks that it did not turn out that way. This probably meant to say, didn't Blaze beat Caliendo in the duel? He did, but hoping that we can avenge that if we, come back around. Next year will be a really tough transition, and we will have to strike gold in all the portal guys. We lose a lot, and I'm not confident in a lot of the depth we currently have. Yeah, I would say to say that, I'm not confident in the depth that we have right now is an understatement. I don't feel very good. I don't feel very good about where we sit right now because I don't think we're going to get a lot of love from the portal, no matter what we do. If Brand stays, if Brands leaves, I don't think that we're going to get a ton of love from the portal. We got good recruits coming in, but that can only matter so much in the first years. And, obviously we have Ludington, we have DeLuca, we got some good guys returning, whether, Nasir and Jordan Williams are going to stay. Those could be guys that could benefit this lineup. Obviously we'll get Block back, we'll get some of those guys that mean some of this lineup. We'll have Arnold again. Hopefully we'll have Ferrari again. I mean, it's like, I say we'll have these guys again, but who knows what the transfer portal is going to entail because we'll have guys leave as well. But next year is going to be a big tell year. It's going to show what the program's going to look like in the next few years. I mean, are we on a downward spiral or is this an anomaly? We will find out. I heard Williams bought in earlier in the year and was working hard, then faded as the year went on. Yeah. And that's what Dennis, I don't know if you were in here earlier when we were talking just about what his schedule was like post Soldier Salute compared to Voinovic's schedule post Soldier Salute. Voinovich wrestled every single unranked wrestler. Williams wrestled every single time that we had a ranked opponent. It would be no surprise to me if his effort and things faded as he was just being forced to wrestle all the good competition and never really gain any type of momentum wrestling unranked opponents. That's how you get better. You got to beat the bad guys, learn, improve through that instead of just being forced to wrestle some of the best guys in the nation over and over and over again, not learning anything from it. I think we really mismanaged that situation. People talk about DeLuca, but it sounds like he's been hurt all season. Ludington is going to have to take a massive step up the team, and our big recruiting class is 27. Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean by we have good recruiting classes coming, but not anything that's going to benefit the very near future. And DeLuca, yeah, he's been hurt all year. That's why we didn't get to see him wrestle all of his matches that he could have before, obviously taking his redshirt year, whereas Ludington did wrestle all of his matches. And obviously I thought Ludington's last match, I think his last match was Minnesota, and I thought he wrestled really well. But obviously he's going to need to take a big step to be someone that's just going to be like a key piece to this team. Like he's not going to be any Masoma and Dean. He might be kind of like what Gabe Arnold is like at 197 right now if he has a good year. So I'm hopeful. I mean, those younger guys get better really fast. I'm hoping that can be the case for Ludington. But yeah, DeLuca, definitely a lot of question marks there as he's been hurt all year. But from what I've seen, he's unbelievably talented. I'm hoping that he could do something. Kind of reminds me of like a Ryder Block situation where Ryder Block was supposed to be this really high level prospect, but was hurt a lot earlier in his career. And now he's finally starting to turn a corner a bit and get to where he could have been. I'm hoping DeLuca can just pick things right back up next year and figure it out. DeLuca is already better than Peterson, but it sucks he was hurt and didn't get any experiences. I don't know if I would go that far. I don't think he's better than Peterson. I think people disrespect Peterson a lot. Like, I think, he's still a transfer that could be looked at after the season as, a nice pickup. In my opinion, he's going to All-American. I fully think he can. I mean, he's ranked 7th right now. He's right there with some of these guys. And I mean, I could literally see him flipping the match with Lilado in the best case scenario. I don't think, he's not going to beat Buzakis tomorrow unless a lot goes his way, but maybe. But Peterson's very talented. Again, a guy that was very close to placing at nationals just last year. DeLuca's got a long way to go before he proves to me that he's a guy that's just going to step in and place at nationals, which is a guy that I think Dean Peterson is right now. Yeah. So, I mean, looking at the situations, what I wanted to say is we have 4, 5, 6, 7 automatically qualified right now. with Arnold, Voinovich, and Block needing to prove it tomorrow. I think Block is in the best situation to get a net large bid if he does not qualify outright, which I'm hoping he can qualify outright. Voinovich is in the worst situation to get an outright or to get a net large bid if he cannot outright qualify, and he's also in the worst situation to outright qualify. And as we've talked about it all night, very disappointed on the choice there. And then Gabe Arnold, he's in an all right situation. He just needs to work his way back and get 10th here, 9th or 10th, obviously. And he can get in the national tournament. He's going to be seeded low if he's in the national tournament. That's just how it is. And there's a lot to discuss about seeding. Peterson's seed don't matter so much. It's going to be that way for everybody. And, I think a lot of people, I talked about Ferrari earlier. I don't know if Ferrari's even going to be like a top 4 seed because the way they do this with like the RPI and everything and, quality matches, all that stuff with Ferraris having sat so long, there was a situation where Vito was a national champ, Vito Arajo of Cornell was a returning national champ, and he got the 6th seed with only like 1 or 2 losses on his resume because he hadn't wrestled really all year, ended up going on and winning it against Dayton Fix. So it's like, we don't know where Ferrari's going to be. We don't know where Peterson's going to be. I'm hoping Peterson will be a top 8 seed where he can kind of have a route made out for him. I would love it if Peterson got, the anywhere between 5 and 8, somewhere where he can maybe take someone out early. I'd love to see what he can do. And then also has a good backside draw if he doesn't. Ayala, same thing. I'm hoping, if Ayala could go and beat Bird tomorrow or get some impressive win that could boost the seed a bit, it could mean a lot, but he should be a top 8 seed. I would hope, considering he got 2nd last year. He's wrestled the whole year's schedule, and he's only taken losses against really quality opponents. So I'm hopeful to see what he could do there. I'm not there, but I've heard DeLuca is better in all 3 positions than Peterson, but it's a moot point now. It really means he has the potential for 4 great years if he's healthy. Yeah, fully agree. There's no debate on what DeLuca could be. He could be so special. And it wouldn't surprise me if he was right there with Peterson in the practice room. Obviously we're not there, so we don't know for sure, but I think DeLuca has 4 great years in front of him. He really reminds me of a guy that's kind of like Ayala, just like one of those lightweights, just scrappy and really could be something. I never knew exactly how Drake Ayala would do, but I knew the ceiling for him was so high, and I was thoroughly impressed when he made it to the national finals. I'm going to be really disappointed if he ends up never getting one because I do think he had the talent to get it done. But we'll see what he can do at nationals. Same thing, Ayala, Caliendo, they'll be looked at as great wrestlers that just were not able to get it done if obviously they don't turn it around going into nationals. And you never want that, you want the stories like Buchanan where, they were 50-50 to win it and they went and did it. And you remember that forever. And we need a guy to step up this year and to be that guy that continues the 30-year streak of having a finalist. That's something that's a huge tradition in the Iowa program. And it's mentioned every year in the broadcast for the national tournament. Iowa has had a finalist every single year since 1990, I believe, when the Brands brothers won it. So it'd be a big deal if we can continue that trend. And I'm hopeful, that at least like Caliendo could get in there. But, there's no telling whether, maybe Ferrari could sneak in there too. I think Ayala's a long shot, but if you had a really good run, maybe. So like the sky's the limit, and everybody wants to decide, what guys are and what they can be before the national tournament happens. No one knows anything before the national tournament happens. I couldn't have told you last year that Patrick Kennedy was going to get 4th at the national tournament after the regular season he had. I had no idea he was going to go and have this awesome national tournament and get 4th. You'll be surprised by what happens and, what 20 seeds will place and, how things go down. They call it March Madness for a reason. That's how this goes. So the best ability is availability. We already have so many guys who hurt all the time. That really needs to change. I'll be watching Keeter this offseason. I wonder if he keeps wrestling. Yeah, I said this exact quote a couple days ago, and I was actually referring to a baseball team that I watched where a lot of guys get hurt, and I was just like, they got all these great players, but the best ability is availability. It does not matter how good someone is if they cannot stay healthy and they cannot keep competing. You see it 1,000 times over. Oh, what could this guy have been if he didn't get hurt? It doesn't matter because he got hurt. You got to stay healthy. And in this sport especially, it's so important. And that's what's so impressive about Penn State. They're not burning their guys out in practice. You hardly see wrestlers getting hurt from there. Where with Iowa, you're seeing it consistently. And it's inevitable that every single year someone's going to sit for at least half the year. This year it was multiple guys that were sitting for months at a time. So we definitely got to figure that out. Any coaching changes in the offseason? Yeah, we talked about the Des Moines Register article earlier that claims that Brands is for sure coming back next year, but that the program will be assessed. I would expect, maybe some things are shaken up in the assistant coach department. I know a lot of people have been requesting that all year. I can't have, I don't have any, credible information to say that will be the case, but I will say that I did hear from a, not the most credible source, but someone that does know some people in the program. I heard the name James Green, which, not sure how many people know James Green in here, but he was a pretty exceptional wrestler. I don't know how exactly, like, I know he placed at nationals and things like that, but I don't know exactly how he did in his final few years, but he wrestled for Nebraska, I believe. Yeah, he wrestled for Nebraska. That's what I thought. He was pretty exceptional wrestler for Nebraska, but where I remember watching him was on the world stage. He made some noise wrestling freestyle and things like that. But yeah, he was a 4-time NCAA All-American, 4-time NCAA championship qualifier, of course, and a Big Ten champion in 2014, had over 100 wins. Very good wrestler for Nebraska. Was great on the world stage. And I, for whatever reason, I heard his name tossed around about potentially coming and helping out at Iowa. And I don't know if that would be with the Hawkeye Wrestling Club or as being an assistant coach, but that would surprise me considering, you would think he'd go to Nebraska. But yeah, that's just a name I've heard tossed around, and I've heard things about assistant coaches changing all year, and you don't know what'll happen in the offseason, but it'd be nice to bring some guys in here that could really push this team to where it needs to be. I know former wrestlers are always, really helpful, and most assistant coaches are former wrestlers, but some of those guys that have wrestled recently and really have the accolades to help these guys out, and especially know the ways that the sport is changing and things like that. It's a big deal. So hopefully we can get some of those guys in here and shake things up, because I think a lot more could change from the assistant coaching staff than one would realize. It could have a lot more of an effect on the team and how it performs than one may think. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over this offseason. I think, in my opinion, there's going to be a lot change as far as how the transfer portal goes, who's here next year, what the lineup's looking like, what the coaching staff is exactly looking like, what the expectations are, and just what the fan opinion is overall. Because right now there's a lot of animosity towards the program, and I think they're trying to get that figured out. I hope that Patrick Kennedy has great nationals. 174 is competitive for him. Depending on where the seeds fall, he can make a run. Yeah, absolutely. It's not crazy to say that we could see him in the finals. I don't necessarily think he could beat Haynes. It would take a lot. He could obviously compete with him, but he could certainly make a run. It wouldn't shock me at all if he went and got second or did something great. But yeah, he's competitive with everybody that's, anywhere 1 through 8. He's really competitive with all of them. So I'm hopeful that he can make something happen. He peaked last year at nationals. There's no reason to suggest he won't do it again. We'll see what he can do. I've heard about Jordan Burroughs. Yeah, we talked about that, many times this year. Just, big names, Jordan Burroughs, Kyle Dake, things like that. You never know. And I don't think that it's very likely, but you never really know what could happen. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just excited to see what's going to happen in general over the offseason. But first and foremost, I'm really excited to see what's going to happen at nationals. I think that's always the most important thing. People want to race past things and accept this year being what it is, but nothing is set in stone until nationals comes through, as I've said. So anyway, I want to take this moment now to plug our sponsor, Big Grove Brewery. It's the official craft brewery of the Hawkeyes. Check them out at www.biggrove.com. Big supporters of the show. Always make sure to, plug them, shout them out. They do a lot for us, and great food, great drinks. So seriously, go check them out, www.biggrove.com. And then one more time, I also just wanted to mention that the wrestler of the day was Michael Caliendo. Big play of the day, Michael Caliendo. Talked about that a lot earlier, but I really do want to just highlight that. It's so nice seeing that refreshing offensive flow again that we once had at almost every weight, in guys like Thomas Gilman and Spencer Lee and DeSanto. And, some of those guys that really made a lot of noise when they were here. I wish, we could have that. We could really have that here right now. And so it's really nice to see him, because it still gives you that inkling of hope that it's like, man, there still are guys like that. Because a lot of matches these days, just across the nation, a lot of matches these days are 4-1. So it's so nice watching people like Messenbrink and Caliendo who just light up the scoreboard and make things happen. How many guys are going to nationals? Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, we have 7 that are for sure in right now. Block is very likely to get in. I'd say Arnold's 50-50 right now. And then Voinovich is unlikely to get in unless he can make something happen. But yeah, I would expect to get 9. At the very least 8, but hopefully 9 that we send. Very easily could have been 10 if we started Jordan Williams, but we've talked about that enough tonight. But yeah, I'm very hopeful that we can have a good national tournament in general. There's been so much talk this year, people just saying that we're only going to have 3 place winners. And that, maybe our peak is only 4 or 5 All-Americans, where I think we could very easily have 6 All-Americans if things really went well. And that's not to say that they will, but, what we could be is unlimited. I really think that there is talent on this team. It sounds like Coach Speak when Brands says that we have the right guys, but I really don't think this year that it was some insane lack of talent. There was just a lack of progression throughout the year, and a lot of guys took a step back from where they were last year, but I think that they can peak at the right time, and I think we really can make some noise at the national tournament. I'm very hopeful. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot more to talk about tomorrow. I believe I wanted to check the schedule to see when we're back tomorrow morning. I'm going to be going live tomorrow after the finals on another post-duel show, and there'll be obviously plenty to talk about then. But the first round, the consolation semifinals and 7th place matches, along with the backside matches of the 9th place and things like that, they will take place at 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. And then finals will be at 3:30 p.m. So we'll be back first thing 11 a.m. tomorrow morning with the consolation semifinals, and that's going to be a huge, huge round for Iowa because we have a lot of guys wrestling in that round. I mean, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys wrestling in the consolation semifinals first thing tomorrow morning. So, and that affects so much more seeding for the national tournament than you would realize. So we'll see what happens. I'd say Burrow is more realistic than Kyle Dake. Kyle Dake is still competing. Yeah, I would say, neither of them are extremely realistic, but Burrows is probably on the closer side of being more realistic, but I just don't think he's like the most willing to go to Iowa or the most fond of Iowa. I would see him at Nebraska, if anything. So I don't think it's, the most likely thing to happen. I think there could be a lot more like smaller named guys that are still great guys that can make a big impact that could come. But yeah, I'm really excited just for tomorrow. I really want to highlight, Bird and Ayala wrestling first thing tomorrow morning. That's going to be a huge match. I know Ayala obviously lost to him twice last year and lost to him at national duels this year, but Bird's coming off a pretty crushing blow in his loss to Blake Borman of Purdue, a guy who Drake Ayala tech-falled. So if Ayala's on, and he looked on today, I mean, he did lose to Marcus Blaze, but it was a match where he was right there, and I think Blaze could beat Bird. I think Blaze and Divino, in my opinion, do beat Bird, but I would have liked to see it happen if Bird could have beat the Purdue kid. But at the very least, we're going to see Ayala wrestling Bird tomorrow, and I think Ayala can give him a fight. If Ayala can beat him, there's no telling what the seed could be. Ayala could very easily be a 3 or 4 seed if that's the case. So we've got a lot to figure out here going forward, and there will not be, there will be no lack of excitement tomorrow, to say the least. Burrows was asked about coaching and said if he makes the jump, it would be somewhere he knew he could win. That's not Nebraska. There's only a few schools you can win at. That's fair, but I mean, so one would argue that Nebraska is in a better place to win right now than Iowa is. I mean, they're going to do better team score-wise than us, realistically. I mean, duel-wise, we're still probably a little better, and tradition-wise and, assets-wise, but if you want to actually talk about somewhere that's winning a little more right now, at least tournament-wise, it is Nebraska. And obviously considering that that's somewhere he wrestled, I'm not saying that that's, 100% where he would go, but if he coaches, I think it could be anywhere. I mean, like I said, I know I've highlighted Virginia Tech a lot this year with just the recruits that they caught coming in with Bo Bassett and things like that. That's like a lovely job to have. There's places like that where you'd be surprised on what they really could be. Some of those programs that don't, stick out to you right away. What's your All-American prediction for us? Yeah, so, it's so hard to stay unbiased when you've watched, 10 wrestlers compete all year and you really want the best for them. But I feel it's easier for me to look at this objectively because I really, if there's a duel on a Tuesday night between Princeton and Rutgers, I'm watching it. I watch all college wrestling, and I know a lot about all these guys that are going to be in the bracket. And I do a lot of studying for it. And we'll know a ton more when seeding comes out. I always like when my high school guys qualify for the state tournament, I tell people, I'm like, I have no idea if they're going to place yet. I got to see what the bracket looks like first, because the bracket determines so much, and the upsets that happen and things like that. But realistically, I think, walking through each weight, I think Dean Peterson's got a great shot. I would predict him to All-American. I think he's a top 8 guy in the nation. I see him maybe being 7th or 8th, but I see him getting in there. I really do. And I think people are really underestimating him. And then I think Drake Guyala would be our second at 133. I definitely think he's a top 5 guy in the nation. I have no doubt in that. I think realistically he's sitting somewhere around 5th right now, maybe 6th, or even 7th, considering some of the guys that are in there, because of the weight is so tough. But I do think he's right up there. I mean, it's obviously, you look at the, Siddall and Forrest and Blaze and Davino and Bird, that's 5 guys right there. Even like Larkin, those are some guys that it's going to be tough to beat, but I think we can compete with any of them. And I think we could be right up there in the top 6, hopefully. Then at 141, Nasir Bailey, I think that's such a hard one to predict, because obviously he did All-American a couple years back. Last year, he was the 3 seed for Little Rock at 133, ended up having a bad tournament, not placing, although he did beat the guy who got 3rd at the conference tournament. He should realistically be a 2-time All-American right now. So, that's not to say that he's 100% going to All-American this year, but that is to say that he has the potential to do it. I would say that my prediction is he's not going to, but he could. But as of right now, I'll say my prediction is that he's not going to. We'll know a lot more when he wrestles number 6, Joey Oliveira, from Rutgers in the Conti semis tomorrow morning. And then Ryder Block, I think this could be a big year for him to win a couple matches at nationals and take a big step in the right direction. And obviously he's another guy that could place. I mean, look at what he just did against Shane Van Ness. He's right there. But, when you see him lose to guys like number 28, Andrew Clark, from Rutgers, it makes you feel a little more questionable about it. I look at him as more of a guy that goes maybe 1-2, 2-2, if he can have kind of a good tournament. 57, I don't necessarily see Victor Voynich making it. If he does, I see him going 0-2. 65, Caliendo should be one of our he's like our first absolute lock to be an All-American, hopefully a finalist. 74, kind of the same thing with Kennedy. He should be a lock to be an All-American. At worst, you maybe see him falling like 7th or 8th, but he should be in there. And then same thing with Ferrari. Ferrari, obviously, injury concerns are, something that could be brought to attention. If he gets out early in the tournament and his ankle or his knee is bugging him, maybe you see a med forfeit on the backside. You'd like to think no, but he should be he should be an All-American, for sure, talent-wise at least. 97, Arnold would have a very steep hill to climb, just considering, the weight difference that he's giving up. But not to say that he couldn't, he 100% could, but I would say most likely not. And then Keeter's going to be right on the cusp. The year that Keeter's had, you'd say probably not. But when you look at heavyweight, there is a big, big drop-off after the top 8 or 9 guys. And not the biggest drop off ever. There's still good guys there that could, compete with Keeter, but I think that Keeter, in my eyes, should All-American. So in my eyes, that would be, 1 with Peterson, 2 with Ayala, 3 with Caliendo, 4 with Kennedy, 5 with Ferrari, and then maybe 6 with Keeter. I think 4 or 5 realistically, because I think there's a good chance that, Peterson won't be in there, a good chance Keeter won't be in there. But I'd say that Kennedy, Ferrari, Caliendo, and Ayala, in my opinion, those 4, I think definitely should, as long as they wrestle to their ability. Ayala's maybe a little tough just because of the situation with the weight class. But then Dean Peterson and Keeter right there. So I think anywhere between 4 to 6, I think is realistic. People that are saying we're only going to have 1 or 2, I don't find that to be the case. Someone else is going to get in there. And, even this year could sneak in there and give us 7, not I would say 7's our absolute max. That would be, we had a very fantastic tournament, but more than likely not anywhere between 4 and 6. Wrestling is a weird sport. Remember, not that long ago, Michigan had a really good year, won the Big Ten, and now they're back to average, same coaches. Yeah, it's really weird. I remember they were getting Nick Suriano and guys like that were really making a name for themselves. Even Ragusan a couple years ago was an All-American, and now he's ranked 24th. There's weird things happen. It's a weird sport, and you see guys all the time that are seeded 25th that end up going on and getting 7th or 8th. So it's almost impossible to predict what's actually going to happen, but you can do the best you can. I like Brands, but any changes they make in the offseason with his staying in charge is just rearranging the deck chairs and the Titanic. Yeah. Honestly, that might be the best way I've seen it put so far. At the start of the year, I was very much pro Brands should stay. Not necessarily pro Brands, but right, it's saying he should stay. As the year has gone on, I think the argument to change things up has become stronger. and continues to increase, but I still don't find myself sitting on the team where I say that he should absolutely be done. But yeah, I think it's fair to say that things are trending in a direction right now that we definitely don't like. And with what he's done with some of the pieces on this team, it's fair to say that he could mess up some things in the future as well. He had Van Ness, but deserved to lose with 4 stalling calls. Yeah, no one's denying he deserved to lose that match. He got gassed out. He got beat at the end of the day. But it was nice to see him compete with Van Ness. Nice to see him take him down. He can take down anybody, but the inconsistencies are the things that we really look at, right now. So one more time before we hop out of here, because, we've been on here for an hour 10. We got a lot more to discuss tomorrow. I'll be back on here later tomorrow afternoon. I wanted to one more time just shout out Big Grove Brewery. Check them out at www.biggrove.com. Just wanted to plug them again. And, great supporters of the show, and they're the official watch party headquarters of the Hawkeyes. Great food, great drinks. Like I said, go check them out. Same thing, while we're plugging, go check out the Discord as well. You see the little banner below. There's a lot going on in the Discord, and actually, I don't have enough people to chat wrestling with on the Discord. I get on there, and sometimes, like when Block had that close match with Van Ness earlier, I thought about maybe texting on there, but it'd be nice to see some of you guys get on there. We can maybe start a little wrestling channel, talk about some of those things. People can text me anytime when they have questions. I also have a Twitter. I've wanted to plug my Twitter and get using it. I really haven't got around to it, but I'm tagged in some of the things that Corey posts on from the Hawkeyes Forum. So if you ever want to message me, tag me on there. I'm always down to answer any questions or anything that people want to talk about outside the show. So if they go in a different direction, I hope Brand stays at the Hawkeye Wrestling Club. We're finally getting good there. I don't want them fired yet, but if they do, it needs to happen this season. Next season will be hard enough. Yeah, agree. It's not going to be it's not going to be peachy next year, to say the least. It's going to be tough. And there's going to be a lot of people wanting them gone if they stick around next year, when next year, not a lot you can do about, depending on the situation that we have. But obviously you don't know yet. Transfer portal, progression, all those things. We could still be competing next year and be a decent team. There's just a lot to look at. Is the Discord free? No, the Discord is not free. If you look below, I don't know exactly what the prices are, but it's $5 a month or $50 a year. $5 a month, just a little bit of cash. But again, if you don't want to have the Discord, hit me up on Twitter. You ever find my Instagram or anything, I think it's just Keegan Jensen. You can hit me up on there too. I'll always answer any questions on there as well, but also join the Discord. We have a lot of fun in the Discord. There's a bunch of talking about men's basketball, women's basketball, all Iowa Hawkeye sports. Get wrestling on there too. People talk to me about it on there sometimes as well. So definitely check it out. But yeah, so if there's any last comments or things that people want to talk about, send it in before I call it a night and we get to looking on to tomorrow. There's going to be more upsets tomorrow. We'll probably see a fair share of medical forfeits tomorrow, just from guys that are already qualified that don't need to wrestle these extra matches. Hopefully we don't see that in some of the great matches like Bird Ayala. I wouldn't think we will, but there's always a chance we do. So we'll see what happens though. It's going to be a lot of exciting wrestling no matter what. And right now we're really looking at Block, Voinovich, Arnold, who are going to be on the backside first thing tomorrow morning, need to work their way back. That's what we're rooting for right now. Let's get 9 or 10 to nationals, and let's go have an amazing nationals here in a couple weeks. So yeah, with that being said, looks like there's no extra comments or anything here. It's been Keegan Jensen with From the Hawkeye to Storm, covering day 1 of the Big Ten wrestling tournament. And we will be back tomorrow for day 2, starting tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. for the Constellation semifinals. And I'll be back on here tomorrow night, probably around 7 p.m. if I had to guess. Be back here live again, and just chatting wrestling and chatting everything that happened. And then once Nationals comes out, I'm not sure, maybe we'll make a video of Nationals preview after we find out what seeds everybody is. And then I'm not sure, what my schedule is going to look like as far as how I'm going live for Nationals, but I am planning on going live after Nationals. I'm not sure if I'll do each day, if I'll do every other day, but at least at the very end, I will be going live and recapping everything that happened at Nationals. So really appreciate just everyone hopping in here, doing a lot for the show, just, giving me a platform to talk wrestling on. And I thank Corey for that too. It's always so much fun, and I'll be excited to get back in here and talk about it tomorrow. So thank you guys. Like I said, it's been Keegan Jensen with From the Hawkeye, the Storm, signing off. I'll see you guys tomorrow.